talk about how at Brillio we have been doing this, and this is something that when we started off 8 years ago, our CEO Raj had this very clear vision that we wanted to just focus on digital and how we use digital to solve our customer pain points. And I think what we started off 8 years into what we are today, I think we have seen different manifestations of the same problem, but it continues to exist. So I think a big part of this is when you engage with large enterprise customers, one of the big thing is it's really about a mindset change, right? How do you embrace digital? How do you basically make your current teams, your current stakeholders, right, kind of to address and kind of align to this new world that is out there? I think that's been one challenge that has been there, but I think it's starting to reduce now because there is a fundamental move, and this is across all the multiple of industry segments that we have been working with, Amit, right? We have seen everybody kind of looking at customer as the primary, right? And hence you kind of take a very top-down approach in terms of how you keep customer at the center, and then you kind of work again, your ecosystems, your IT systems, right? And everything, kind of aligns to that. So I think one big change that we are seeing is, of course, as a challenge, right? I think the mindset change is one big thing that we continue to see, but I think it's starting to reduce. And I think that the second big thing is, the whole, because we're taking kind of a top-down approach, kind of looking at the customer, you have to kind of start creating, applied design thinking, kind of start looking at, new industry use cases, create user personas, kind of create journeys. And then you start to look at your ecosystem to support it. So since some of these companies already have, or these enterprise customers already have made significant amounts of investments, kind of rewiring their current IT ecosystem to support this new vision of being truly digital, I think is the second big change that needs to happen, right? I would say, and I would call this a big challenge, but rewiring their current systems, rewiring their existing investments to support this new would be a, I would say, a second big dimension. The third that I would say would be the regulatory angle, right? Like how does those affect your industry, especially like the regulated industries like banking, finance, or healthcare, life sciences. That's I would say, a third dimension. So combination of these three are, I would say, would be the three big challenges of it that we see, when you look at the way the transformations are. One, the metaverse as a technology, and you see me smiling when you're asking me this question. One, metaverse as a technology, and then how its ramifications on industries, and then the weave of a 5G on metaverse, right? And then how that has helped, whether it has given tailwinds or is it headwinds, right? And we'll talk about both. So see, one thing that we have seen, right? I think when you take customer as the primary, and I think that was a good question that we started off with, Amit. The way I think customers are today evolving, right? And I think when you kind of do a time series of the generations that we have been in, from baby boomers to all the way today, it is all Gen Alphas, right? And especially when you look at the Gen Zs, the millennials, and then your the Gen Alphas, these are people who are very well connected to the internet, right? They have complete awareness of what they are into. When you take any segments, right, whether you take a banking segment, you take a retail, you take a healthcare segment, right, people are well aware of what they are purchasing. They know what they're going after, right? So the industry, or the way I would say, the buyer personas have evolved significantly. And a lot of them are very, connected and aware of what is happening. So one of the big things that, as an industry that we have seen is this whole omni-channel experience, connected experiences, right? This is something where, you look for, very personalized offers coming your way, right? Or you're getting a very personalized services. And all of this is keeping the customer at the center. Now, one of the new things that has happened, right? I think while it started off with gaming, where gaming has been an industry for the past couple of decades, and this theme of metaverse has been evolved in multiple ways and fashions, using your gaming industry itself. But interestingly, we're seeing, especially with Meta picking up last year, right, kind of rebranding, Facebook rebranding themselves as Meta and then kind of putting their might on it. We are seeing a lot of industries, and including, interestingly, some of the regulated industries adopting metaverses big time. We very recently, did a engagement for employee onboarding for a large healthcare payer. We also work with, also working with a bank, kind of reimagining their customer experience in metaverse. And the reason why the interest is here, it's beyond marketing, right? Today, engage with your customers, right? That's your new medium beyond your omni-channel experiences that you're talking about. So that's the shift that we are seeing, and hence, it's becoming a big example of people adopting metaverse, right? So hence, industries, right, and the four industry segments that we talked about as Brillio, we are seeing a significant shift across all of these industries to start adopting metaverse. I think 5G again, is a very interesting tech, right? I think today, if remote surgeries are possible, and in fact, we have been working with some of the customers, especially in the healthcare and the life sciences space. I think it's all because of the ability of your 5G to be segmented, right, and allow you to have really ultra low latency networks. So that, has seen, and especially with metaverse, right, I think there is a need for, obviously, you need like devices, like a VR device, etc. Even on AR, it could work. But I think, there is a very significant interest or a need for, specialized hardware, for example, right, and compute powers, etc., etc. And of course, the network, right, because of the, the amount of bandwidth that it starts to consume. So I think with 5G getting launched in India, I think we've been testing it out. I think we're going to start rollout. I think what I'm seeing is the 5G, and with its power that it brings in, and the combination of metaverse, I see kind of synergizing really well in the sense, it's going to give a good tailwind to the metaverse adoption itself. So that's how I see this coming together. So, 5G adoption, and metaverse, and then you look at across industries, you can see some very disruptive use cases that can start coming together. Again, Amit, I think as a firm, right, one of the things that we have seen is, the buyer personas is changing, right? Which means, people are looking for connected experiences, which means, I should be, if I'm as a user, if I'm walking into, let's say, a retail store, the brand recall has to be there for me. The brand should recognize who am I, right? And then personalize things towards me, right? Which means that whole theme of connected experience and personalized experience is something that has been there. But today, the world has also moved into connected plus immersive experiences, right? And that's your shift that we are seeing in industry. So that's number one, which means metaverse now becomes no longer, relegated to the realms of gaming industry alone, right? I think it's starting to become mainstream. So hence, what we are seeing, and especially across all of these four sectors, and I kind of gave you two examples of to regulated industries, right, like healthcare and then banking, we are seeing use cases coming up, right, like examples of, people looking for driving 3D banking, right? I want to be at my home, but I still want to have a very personalized conversation, let's say, with my banker. Or, think about, the healthcare, like the way I talked about remote surgeries, right? So if it is possible today, it's happening because, there is able to have a conversation, right? In the realm, right? Or you're able to use the devices in a virtual world, right? I think that's something that is happening. We are seeing, adoption, for example, in clinical trials, right? Where, people want to have the privacy, but still want to talk about, what's happening. So these are some, interesting examples that are coming out. And that's how I'm seeing, this starting to becoming a lot more mainstream, Amit. And this is the place where we are advising, obviously our customers on.
Very good.
And I think, when you see and some of the examples of customers that we have been working with, right? I think from, I think the banking as an industry, if I have to just talk for a second, I think has started to be disrupted significantly. And this is especially with fintechs coming in, right? And it's no longer just your traditional banks, which have been in the market. It's also your fintechs, which are coming in, right? And there is a big disruption, and obviously there are regulatory norms that has kicked in. In India, for example, we have had, with the government creating the digital-only banks, right? I think what has happened is, and this is across the industry and across the globe, what we are seeing is a big interest towards setting up digital-only banks, and we have been, in fact, helping some of our key customers in actually setting up a completely grounds-up digital bank, for some of the big names that are out there. So what we are seeing is, the first, the disruption has been from traditional banking to becoming a digital-only bank, and that's where, has been one shift, which obviously fintechs played a significant role. So that disruption has happened, and we have been like at the center of this disruption. The second big thing that is now happening, and especially this, for a banking which is predominantly working with either businesses or with end users, customers, and the customer demographics changing, right? And the buyers now not just being on traditional phones and mobiles, right? I think they're also onto these multiverses, like we call it, right? The metaverses, multiples of metaverses out there. I think it's important for banks to start to engage. Now, this is on two dimensions, right? If I look at it from, let's say, a retail or a commercial bank, it's predominantly around how do I engage with my customers wherever they are? How do I offer my banking services, wherever they are, right? And that's where, the example of 3D banking that I kind of laid out is probably one example. If I want to engage with, let's say, my subject matter experts or maybe my support channel, I can connect with my, my subject matter, but let's say in the virtual world, right, and have a conversation. That could be another kind of model that we are seeing. So that's one dimension. But also, when you look at the payment side of it, which is on the banking, right, one more dimension of banking, we start seeing, like today there are so many of cryptos that are out there, right? And then there is your banks which actually deal with fiat currencies, right, which is your actual dollars and rupees and so on and so forth. So there has to be a merge of all of these, right, at some point in time. So there are base currencies today that are available, which kind of brings that bridge. But banks become now more of a, kind of I would say like a enabler where you can actually create a marketplace. So this rise of decentralized autonomous organizations is something that a bank can play into. They can start creating a marketplace where they can bring the consumers, they can bring multiples of other services, right, and kind of offer a marketplace view. So that's the disruption that we are seeing, Amit, that's happening within this industry. That's a good leading question. So one of the, I think like I use the word multiverse. And this is interesting because there are so many metaverses out there, right? And people get confused. So there is a decentralized metaverse, and then there's a centralized metaverse, and then there is, formats, where multiples of metaverses, and there are so many, like some, like let's say a retail fashion industry is on a specific type of a metaverse, versus let's say others who are on a different one. So what's happening is there is so much. It's not like the way internet is, right? And you had an internet, you had your web stores, and then you could actually start interacting. What's happening is with so many metaverses, it's becoming multiverse. But I think the good news is, the industry has looked into this as an issue. In fact, now we have like a metaverse standards foundation, right? I think we are starting to, again, there's an industry consortium which is kind of coming together and kind of defining an open metaverse standard, so that, all of these can potentially interoperate, and especially with the cryptos, like I said, right? There are so many variants of currencies that are out there, and people have started to harmonize this. So one is that challenge, right, which is multiverses that are out there, how it can be harmonized, and this whole industry consortium that is coming by kind of helping to shape that. So that's one challenge that I see. Second, like I said, that I spoke earlier on, is the amount of specialized hardware, and then the compute power that is required for us to kind of bring these things together, right? I think is a big challenge that we see. But obviously now with some of these devices becoming cheaper, and not to have the devices, right, you can still have an AR experience, but in the metaverse, I think that's kind of addressing some of these challenges, right? That's challenge number two. And I would say the third is, typically, I mean, internet is also not regulated, but in the sense, metaverses today are not regulated at all, right? Like what happens within the metaverse, is probably something that is not there, Amit. And I think with decentralized, it's probably okay because the blockchain is underlying technology, Web3 is underlying technology. So there is a way for me to have provenance of what is done. So I'm able to, go back and, audit it. But I think that doesn't happen on the centralized version of metaverse today, right? So that I think is a challenge that has to be there. And then the adoption of the countries and then the regulation that kicks within the countries itself, right? So I think those are some of the top three challenges that I would say, kind of exist today in this world. So I think we have had a fantastic year. We have had significant tailwinds, in the last couple of years, and especially like with the adoption of digital, has become, a lot more accelerated and a lot more exponential than what it was, maybe a few years back, right? So what we are seeing is, we have been able to ride this tailwinds really well. And I think, some of the strategies that we have played into, one, taking a very customer-centric approach. Some of our core values is being entrepreneurial, right? Being customer success is at the primary of everything that we do. So kind of keeping our sharp focus on what we are doing, as we continue to scale and we continue to ride these tailwinds, I think is number one. The second thing is, to be, client proximate, being in the proximity of where our clients are, right? So obviously, US is still continues to be our headquarters and continues to be our focus, but India is a big center for us, where obviously we are in multiple cities. So between these two, what we have now started to add is expand into Europe, specifically with Romania as another new center, dev center that we have actually started to expand. And then we are also expanding into both into LATAM as well as within the US into Canada as well, right? So Mexico and in Canada has been some new centers. So that's a global expansions that we've been on to. In terms of industry segments, we continue to be on those 4 industry verticals. That focus continues to be there, but we are becoming a lot more verticalized, right? We are using the power of what we have been doing so far, and continue to sharpen the sword on that. And then obviously, all of this cannot be done just by us as Brillio, right? We are extending and looking at meaningful partnerships, industry partnerships, and being part of these industry forums, where we're using those powers to basically drive some of our strategies together, Amit. So that's how we have been expanding.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.